Hello, hello, hello. Sorry about completely skipping the Tuesday recording. Stuff was going on, I never had a chance to make it up. Let's get started. Chapter 18 Encounter with Kin. The wolf creatures did not attack again that day, though Derek and Mandelbrot heard them often or glimpsed them in shadowing their progress through the trees. Derek watched them, his weapon at ready, but not certain that he could fire it again. Not with the knowledge that they were intelligent. Once or twice he called out to the wolves or gestured to one of them slipping past, but they never responded. By noon the calls had faded behind them, and they were left alone in the forest. "I think we must have passed only through a far corner of their territory," Mandelbrot said. "The attack was simply to ensure that we came no closer to the den, or whatever, and they stayed with us to be certain that we left. It is a lucky accident that our path did not lead us in the wrong direction." "It would have been luckier if it hadn't led us to them at all," Derek answered morosely. "We must be very careful," Mandelbrot said. "There are likely to be more tribes in the area, Master Derek. Do you think that perhaps these wolf creatures would be able to help us? Perhaps we do not have to find the robot city." "No," Derek replied, but the question made him glance over to Mandelbrot. "We need Robot City. Stone Age technology won't do either of us any good. Are you going to repair your Nymph of Flint joint? Are you going to find servos and high-grade lubricants in a new optical circuit?" Mandelbrot was silent after that, but Derek knew that the robot was experiencing a mental quandary after their encounter with the wolf creatures. Mandelbrot obviously was troubled by their sentience. It showed in the questions he asked, in the way that he looked at Derek's weapon, in the attention the robot paid to the movement of the wolf creatures watching them. Knowing the robot as he did, and having seen the reactions of the original Robot City robots to Woolruff, Derek knew where the problem lay. He could almost hear balances shifting within the robot's mind. "Mandelbrot," he said as they walked, "how do you regard the wolf creatures? How do the laws apply to them?" "Are you asking if I consider them human, Master Derek?" "Yes, I suppose that's the basic question. Are they human? I know you came to class Woolruff as human." "Postronic minds are as variable as those of humans, Master Derek. What is human? There are many ways to answer the question, all of them valid, and all of them with shortcomings. Certainly it is more than simply the way a being looks. Even among the humans I have seen there is a great variance." Derek was shaking his head. "But every one you've encountered has been a Homo sapiens, a bipedal, upright walking mammal descended from apes and able to trace their ancestry back to Earth. These wolf things, whatever they are, aren't bipedal, aren't apes, and aren't descended from anything on Earth." "That description fits Woolruff as well." "Point taken, but you haven't answered my question yet." "Let me give you a hypothetical situation. If I told old Blazek back on Aurora that Woolruff was a great danger to me and the only way to remove the danger was to kill her, would Blazek do it?" "The danger would have to be demonstrated, Master Derek. Your word would not be enough." "All right. Assume it was. Assume I can convince Balzac of the imminent risk. I know I couldn't order Balzac to kill a human, but what about Woolruff? Balzac's seen her walk and talk and use the computer and pilot the ship. Would he still be able to protect me?" Mandelbrot's eyes gleamed. His bad leg dragged through the underbrush, and the robot came to a halt alongside Derek. "You are asking this because you are concerned that I will not be able to protect you should these wolf creatures attack again." Derek shrugged. He patted his broken arm, then waggled the gun in his hand. "We're not in the greatest of shapes, Mandelbrot. Neither one of us. First, I don't want to have to use this thing. Not after what we know now. But if I have to in order to stay alive, I probably will. What about you, Mandelbrot?" The robot seemed to consider that for a long moment, and for a moment Derek was afraid that he might have inadvertently driven the robot into postronic lockup. Then servo motors whirred as it began walking again. "I have searched my databanks and checked the functions of my logic system, Master Derek, and the readouts are very erratic. My priority circuits are almost in balance. Had I never met Woolruff, had I never seen sentient alien life forms, and did I not have memories of Robot City in my mind, I'm sure it would be different. What are you saying, Mandelbrot? That I do not know what I would do, Master Derek. I do not know. He could have insisted. He could have made it a direct question and stressed the importance of an answer. The second law would have forced Mandelbrot to answer. Mandelbrot, do you consider these wolf creatures to be as human as me? But somehow it didn't seem right to ask. After all, Derek wasn't sure of the answer himself. All of a sudden, it was too late to ask. They had continued to walk even after the sun had set. The moons were up and bright, and Derek wanted to cover as much ground as they could before settling in for the night. Mandelbrot's comlink overheard the short-range call. "Derek," it said, "there are robots in the near vicinity." Mandelbrot's flat, emotionless voice sounded strangely dispassionate. "They seem to be searching for hunter-seekers that are also supposed to be in this vicinity." Derek couldn't help the grin that split his face. "That's wonderful, Mandelbrot. Now we can finally get out of here." He focused his thoughts inward, trying to contact the robots via the chempets in his body, but the link was still not there. "Can you contact them, Mandelbrot? Tell them that there's a human in need of aid?" Derek got no farther. The furry in gray fur hit him from behind. Claws raked his shoulder as he was sent sprawling to the ground. His broken arm hit a root protruding from the earth. Derek screamed involuntarily as the world went dim. His attacker, a wolf creature, had turned to attack again, snarling. Derek tried to raise himself up with his good hand and could not. The wolf creature gathered itself to pounce. Derek knew he was going to die. The wolf creature, sentient or not, was going to rip his throat out. Derek struggled to crawl, to move. He saw a blur of metal and heard the whine of overtaxed gears. Mandelbrot had moved to intercept the wolf creature, but the gear whine became a wail, and the robot's leg seized up entirely. Mandelbrot started to fall, internal gyros protesting as the wolf creature leapt. Mandelbrot's Avery-type arms snaked out even as he fell, even as the body of the wolf creature bounded over the robot's prone body. Mandelbrot grabbed, held, and threw. It was all he could do. The wolf yelled in surprise and pain, then the body thudded against the tree next to Derek and slumped to the ground. The stars in Derek's head went away slowly. His vision cleared to see Mandelbrot lying next to him and staring. "Master Derek?" the robot asked. "I think I may have killed it." His voice seemed to grind from his metallic larynx, halting. Derek understood immediately that the robot was very near lockup. His one good eye was dim and his hand was fisted tightly. "Mandelbrot," he said desperately, "you had to do it. I would have died otherwise. I'm okay, I think. You saved my life, Mandelbrot. You had no choice. No choice at all. If you lock up now, you're committing a first law offense. I need you." Derek tried to rise and fell back again with a groan. He'd intended it as an act. It wasn't. The pain was all too real. His discomfort stirred Mandelbrot. The eye came back to full brilliance. The hand unclenched and the robot stood up, his left leg sticking out stiffly in front of him. Gently he helped Derek to his feet. "Thank you, Mandelbrot," Derek said, and went to the wolf creature. It was not breathing. Up close it was magnificent, muscular, the thick fur rich with glossy highlights in the moonlight, the face expressive even in death. Derek's gaze was caught by the forepaws. They were true hands, despite the deadly curved claws, the long fingers delicate and jointed, the thumb opposed and ideal for grasping. The creature must walk on its knuckles, he realized, for the top of those joints were wide, flat and bony. Except for that difference, the hands might have been those of a human. Derek sighed. Mandelbrot was right to be bothered by the death. The massive head lolled, the neck broken. Derek stroked the fine, gray-tipped black fur of the creature with his good hand. "You couldn't help it, Mandelbrot," he said again, knowing the robot was watching him. "You have to know that." He stopped. His fingers had found something in the fur of the creature's neck. Derek pulled it loose. It was a necklace of colored wire. Soldered to the end of one of the strands was a small circuit board. Derek's breath hissed with surprise. "Mandelbrot, look at this. Mandelbrot?" Mandelbrot was no longer listening. The robot had suddenly straightened in an attitude of listening. "Master Derek, the robots I heard a few minutes ago. They are being attacked." From somewhere very close by, they could hear the sudden, savage howling of wolves. Chapter 19. Escape from the City. Silverside's reaction to being seen by the hunters was swift and powered by the three laws. The third law forced her to try to save herself. The second law demanded that she follow the orders of humans, and though she was their leader, Kenai's commands to save the kin still carried weight. The first law compelled her to do whatever she could to keep her people alive, which meant that the prime consideration was that Central be destroyed. Silverside changed her shape as the hunters turned to look up at her. She drew back the parafoil and thickened the body. Even as the hunters raised their hands to fire their lasers, she became a streamlined, compact mass instead of a glider, and she dropped the last 30 feet like a massive stone, crashing heavily into the central column of Central. Laser beams crisscrossed the area where she had been. Delicate circuitry smashed under her fall. Silverside changed back to wolf form even as she rose from the wreckage of the core unit. She went to the wide panel surrounding the core and pushed with all the strength of her durable body. A panel toppled, striking the next in line. The array went down like a row of dominoes, sparking and crashing, the thunder of their destruction ringing in the cavernous room. Silverside fled the room, howling the ritual triumph of a victor even as she anticipated the hunter's lasers cutting her down. It didn't matter to her. She'd done what she'd come to do. But nothing happened. The hunters had stopped. Already confusion was spreading through the city. She could hear it, 1,000 voices crying out in the void tongue that the old mother had given her. Walking stones were asking Central for instructions, but Central was not replying, would never reply. The alarm was spreading out through the various levels of this Krajal-like society. Emergency! Central core memory damaged and offline. Command program inactive. Secondary routines down. Activate supervisory backups. Behind her, Silverside heard the hunters stir. She raced into the corridor beyond Central's room. There were no walking stones in sight there. She quickly altered herself once more to appear as one of the Hill of Stars hunters. Depending on the disguise to give her cover, she headed for the exit from the place. She listened to the continuing dialogue in her head. City command given to supervisor units, Alpha, Beta, Gamma. The general announcement went out first over all frequencies, then 3 new voices boomed in her head. The direction finder on her skull indicated that all 3 were in widely scattered sections of the city. Alpha. Normal city subroutines accessed. City functions online and programming reinstated. Beta. Alert situation. Central computer destroyed. Attacking unit in shape of local wolf creatures is rogue robot. Repeat. Attacking unit is robot not under control of city supervisors. Gamma. Alert update. Witnessing units report sophisticated shape-changing abilities. Compass Tower Hunter-Seeker programming altered to compensate. Silverside increased her pace as she moved toward the exit. This corridor was crowded now, the walking stones returning to their routines. If the hunters were aware that she could change her shape, then her walking stone guise was not going to help her for very long. Someone would report her presence, or discover the charade through some inadvertent response. She knew that her victory had been short and bittersweet. Yes, she had destroyed Central, she had disrupted the city, if only momentarily, but the city had responded to the challenge all too well. If she interpreted the signals correctly, there were now 3 sub-centrals, all in different places, and they knew her one advantage. If she was going to win this battle, she must move quickly, Find all 3 of these supervisors and destroy them." The next command from the tree of supervisor dashed any hope Silverside had at all. Alpha: "All city units. Accessing subroutine 3067.A.296. Immediately report any units not responding. Hold that unit at all costs until hunter-seekers arrive. Third law precedence invoked. City survival involved. Higher priority than individual survival." All around her, moving walking stones came to an abrupt halt. An instant later Silverside did the same. It seemed safest. She was wrong. A simultaneous alert was broadcast from the worker walking stones around her. "Anomaly. Hunter-seeker unit in Compass Tower has stopped." In the same instant all the workers in sight lunged the nearest worker aside, the fragile body crumpling under her blow, and dashed through the opening it gave her. To the Hill of Stars and emerged into the cool night. She howled a lament. Then she turned into the lumbering bird shape she had used once before, a black and sorrowing form. Clumsily her wings beat air and she returned from the city into the open sky. The false stars of the city below mocked her, and she knew there'd be no hiding from the hunters now.